Welcome to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered with Perry Clark. This program looks at mental health from unique perspectives and shows you how to manage your life by finding the knots that help you and stay away from the ones that could be a disadvantage. Now, here is your host, Perry Clark.
Hello all. Welcome back to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist, here with you. And here with the classic reminder that this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not constitute working with a mental health professional, but please seek one out in your area to work on your unique issues. So, this podcast for today, we're talking with a gentleman that I have, I'll admit, bought a number of his work, as well as finally got a chance to meet him when I went to Big Bad Con 2023. And got a chance to play one of the games I hadn't gotten from him, and managed to walk away with a copy of it as well, which I'm very grateful for. But definitely knew I had to get him on the show. And I want to introduce you to Jerry Grayson. Jerry has designed and published games since 2002. Flattered that others find his small efforts amusing, his proudest industry work is Godsend Agenda, followed by Helios, Worlds of Sun and Stone, and Atlantis, The Second Age. When not creating games that have all uppercase letters in the title, Jerry works on becoming a better human being through activities of civil. It's late this evening while I'm recording this. Acts of civility and kindness to others. Jerry has been writing books set in and around Africa for years, and the books he's written are fun, bold productions filled with awesome art and great characters. A little known fact, if tickled, Jerry will hiccup cinnamon and glitter. So welcome to Untying Knots, Jerry.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Welcome to be here. So, as I classically always start with the question being, how did you get here?
How did I get here? Well, like in 1981, that's when like my journey with role playing started. Before that, I was into, your other basic geekeries and stuff like that, like comic books, which is one of my biggest loves. Mm-hmm. Lots of media. So not only just role-playing games, but music and TV, games of all sorts, and just fiction, science fiction, fantasy, just anything that I can consume. That's what I did. And then once I found role-playing in 1981 with the magenta box with the sorcerers and the fighter on the cover. Once, I got to play that, it blew my mind, and then it was on. And then I kind of look at that as like one of those locus points, like in your life, where you could have gone any direction. So growing up, it was essentially like almost like being raised by wolves. Like it was without like this creative outlet and without like my mother indulging, my creativity. Who knows where I'd be right now? I mean, I could be, a crime kingpin, or I probably could have been a senator or something if I would have. But this is where I'm at. Which, now is a really good spot, at least for me, physically, emotionally, and stuff like that. But yeah, since like, 1981, and I was like 9 years old. 1981, yeah. I was 9 years old, and that's when I got hip to role playing. And then, I've been on adventures ever since, doing my thing, or at least trying to.
And surviving the quote unquote satanic panic of the time.
Yes,
not to mention.
That kept me from actually originally, like I couldn't play D&D because of that, because my mother had seen that and was like, oh no, I don't want you to be a devil worshiper and stuff and all that. But so the first game I actually got to own myself, because D&D was underground. I had to like go find my fix like in back alleys and and abandoned warehouses and stuff. But the first game that she allowed me to have or to buy was Star Frontiers. So we went up to the Gamekeeper in the mall. I don't know if you remember the Gamekeeper, but back in the olden days, you had Walden Books, B. Dalton's, and the Gamekeeper was where, if you went to the mall, you could get the hookup for games and stuff. So, but yeah, couldn't play. So I had to play covertly D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. But beyond that, once I got Star Frontiers, that kind of hit me to like a lot of other stuff that was going on. And then from there, my friend gave me a milk carton full of games that he had got at a swap meet, and that just blew my mind, and just kind of opened up things further for me, or at least in the role-playing game front. So yeah,
well, seeing that aspect of that, you can be so many different settings, and the game system wasn't just high fantasy is an important one.
Yeah,
I think this is about the time also when Mike Pondsmiths is coming out with the whole cyberpunk genre.
Yeah, that was later on. That's one of my holy trinity. There are 3 games that are my holy trinity of games, and there's more, but there are 3 games that have influenced me. So I consider like Mike Pondsmith my Mace Windu, and this other creator named Greg Gordon like my Yoda. And those 2 guys, between James Bond 007, Star Wars, Torg, from Greg Gordon, and Mechton and Cyberpunk 2013 and then 2020 from Mike Pondsmith, that really influenced a lot of how I approach like gaming from then on. And then you couple that with other outside forces like music. I'd like to say like I'm a second generation like gamer. Like I'm not the first generation. I didn't like start in 1974. Or with even like, let's say with hip hop, like I'd say like I'm second generation. Like I wasn't there for like Cool Herc, but I was there for like Run DMC. And then you mix all of this stuff together, like like hip hop, punk rock, ska music, reggae music, all of these things together. They kind of inform you, especially at that age where you become what I call like a real human. Because growing up, there's a point at which you become, you just kind of manifest who you're going to be. And that's usually around the time where like you start buying your own music, you start dressing yourself and things like that. And, figuring out, your identity, like I like this kind of music. I like this kind of like, art and so on and so forth. And I think, especially since, I'm from Vegas, and Vegas is like a really weird spot because it's cosmopolitan without actually being really a cosmopolitan city. It's fairly small, but you have so much transient population like coming through. You've got an Air Force base, so it's like a really unique way of kind of growing up. Like people don't move here because it's great for a family. They move here because there's money here. So people move here to get jobs and stuff. I've yet to meet anyone who's moved here because they wanted to give their kids a better education or life and stuff like that. So you end up here, and being here in this weird kind of it's kind of like living on a mountain because you do have media, you do have everything that other cities have, but your access is weird and kind of limited to all these things. So you kind of become informed in different ways, through the hobby scene, through like comics, music, like it's always an event when someone would come here that you really wanted to hear as a, as form of a concert because it was special. It wasn't like LA where it's like, oh, we got millions of people coming through here. It'd be like, ooh, such and such is here. Let's go see them. And it'd be a magical moment. So there's that. But yeah, that's pretty much me. It's just this kind of, I guess, witch's brew of influences and, convergences of different media and things that,
and the loving support of our mothers. Because my
That's right.
my mother too was also one who very much got me into the science fiction to fantasy. I
Yeah.
became also someone that you could sit and talk with about these
Right.
things too as well. And so that brings an interesting question, especially as two Black men. What does it mean for you looking at our people in this field, in these genres as well?
How does it like? How do I perceive it? What do I think of it? Is that
Yeah,
the question?
all of the above. Yeah.
I think there is so much that people of color like contribute, but let me see, how can I put it? But it's almost in a quiet sense. Like you'll
Mm-hmm.
have like people who have done great things. You'll have like Charles Saunders, who's a writer, Octavia
Mm-hmm.
Butler. You'll have all of these writers who are contributing, but it's not as mainstream as like a Tanith Lee or Larry Niven or things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But the things they contribute, when people of color contribute to any type of media, they have always infused it with a piece of their culture that you don't get from, like, let's say, like a Western European writer. Like they will
Mm-hmm.
infuse, like, like let's say if you're a white person, you will infuse it with what you know. And it's
Mm-hmm.
usually what we've all been taught. You get your classics, you get your classic Greek myth, you get this, you get
Mm-hmm.
a little smattering of Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
but never really told that Egypt is African. It's just, yeah, but it's Egypt. That's not
Right.
really
It's
African. Right.
its
Yeah,
own
like it's
entity. No.
like it's
Yeah.
on its own island, and then you get your Nordic stuff. And then you get a smattering of everything else as a quaint look at stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
um, what a lot of people don't realize is that that quaint little smattering of things that you get are things that I grew up consuming. So like all
Mm-hmm.
like the folk tales that you get being like a person of color, not just a black person, but Latinos and Hispanic and the
Mm-hmm.
Asian community, like they will bring their flavor. And one of the things growing up, like my gaming group, since in Vegas, because of the Air Force Base, a lot of my friends were hyphenated in the sense that they were, Thai and black, Korean and black, or
Mm-hmm.
um, Thai and Puerto Rican, or white and Japanese. Like they were all several different things. So they brought all of this stuff with them. So, you go to
Mm-hmm.
their house and play, and even though it wasn't represented in the things that we were doing, playing video games or role playing games or reading
Mm-hmm.
the comics, it was stuff that we ourselves just threw into the pot. It's kind of like a stone soup of
Mm-hmm.
creativity. It's like, hey, we want to play this game. Well, I'm going to throw in this because, being Filipino, there's these really cool myths about this. So that gets thrown
Mm-hmm.
that you never knew about. So then,
Mm-hmm.
you have to go find that. And so that's what I would do is like I would always look for the stuff that wasn't already there. Like a lot of people are very happy in their mediocrity.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they love to just stew in stuff that they've been stewing in for like the last 20 or 30 years, or just continually to be fed those things and they're happy with it. Where,
Mm-hmm.
I like those things too. But occasionally, you need to spice it up. You might have a beef stew and it might be
Mm-hmm.
the best beef stew you've ever had, but sometimes you want a jambalaya or, you want something else, like you
Mm-hmm.
want greens one day, and you want those in your games. You just want stuff that is not, you want something that one represents you, and two, something that is different from what you've been given so far. I mean, we can all just sit here and eat, Wonder Bread all day, but sometimes you want a pita pocket, so it's like,
Oh,
you,
I know exactly what you mean. And
yeah, so
unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to mention this during an interview I recently was doing. But I had run a game in Chult, which is
mhm.
the D&D when
Yeah,
Tomb of Annihilation
I
came out.
was thinking about that today, and I was thinking, but go on.
And I had I basically rebuilt the entire environment. I used it as a setting. But one of the things you get in one of the adventures there is an alchemy jug, which gives you various different chemical things. But the last thing is it'll make about 2 pounds of mayonnaise.
Yeah,
And mayonnaise, tropical environment.
yeah, that's nasty.
That's not just that. That's food poisoning,
Does it really
guaranteed.
say mayonnaise?
Yes, it does.
Man,
It says
who
that in
who
the
is eating
design.
two jugs? Who needs 2 jugs of mayonnaise?
I
You know what's
know.
you know what's nastier? The only thing nastier than mayonnaise is sandwich spread.
Ooh.
Like mayonnaise is Satan's nosh. That is, it's a filthy, filthy condiment, man. Ugh.
Yeah, the only time it comes into my house is when I'm making deviled eggs.
Yeah, exactly. You only need a little mayonnaise to make stuff move. That's it. You just need
Yep.
it just a little bit to get it moving, but no.
So for my game, I switched out the mayonnaise for hot sauce.
Okay, I could see it because
Coming out of the alchemy judge.
yeah, and everyone needs it. One time I got stopped in the airport, and it made me feel very black. That I was coming back from the UK, and I found a hot sauce store. Like it was nothing but wall to wall. Imagine your friendly neighborhood comic shop, like a store like that, but instead of comics, it's full of hot sauce. And you just go around the walls, and you can sample it because they give you I think it was you had a little thing of crackers that you could pour the hot sauce on and eat it. So I bought hot sauce and then got all the way to America, but coming through customs in America, I got jammed up. So I'm stopped. And I'm like, why is this taking so long? And then, you see the people looking through your bag and then looking up at you, looking through your bag and looking. I'm like, what is going on? And then the lady came over and she was like, she presented me with the hot sauce. And I was like, oh, no, this is the blackest thing I could get stopped for. It's the hot sauce. And yeah, they took away my hot sauce.
Oh,
My hot sauce, but damn it, I found some hot sauce that was really good, but I'll never know because I never got to take it. But speaking of troll, it was funny because I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking about the exoticism and kind of the adventure tourism that people of colors cultures represent in the hobby. So you will get a supplement that is, about, their analog of Africa or South America or Asia.
right.
It's never the setting proper. It's always a place you can go once you've done everything in the European version of the game.
Right.
Now you can go over here and do some tourism and see how these folks live.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them, and I get it that these are done with probably the best intentions. And, I appreciate that. I appreciate that someone's trying. But sometimes I wish they would just give it a little bit more of a spin, or I can't remember the name of the supplement and it kills me because I should have it kind of FUBU, for us, by us, in the sense that when I wrote the 7C IFRI supplement, the African supplement for 7C, the whole goal when I wrote the outline and got all the writers that I got to hire together is I told them my intention was to subvert the game, was to basically make this supplement the game. And then after you're done playing, you're like, hey, let's go to the analog of Europe and see what they're doing. Make it so incredible that it would subvert and become the default setting.
Gotcha.
Obviously it didn't happen. But the thing is, and there's a few hiccups in that book, but that book is its own unique thing. And everything else gets to be kind of watered down, but IFRI is its own thing. And I wanted it to be its own thing. I wanted that to read as if this is the core setting and the analog of Europe is, the supplement to it. And just, put so many hooks and so much meat in there that you would literally have no reason to get any other book except the core book to learn how to play it. With Atlantis, the Second Age, that was one of the mandates too, is that the book would be built and focused on everything below the equator. So that basically every person of color would get their shot in Atlantis. Atlantis. And subverted the idea of it being a Greek place, since the original story was obviously told by this Egyptian priest, so Solon and stuff, who then told it to Plato, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. So the Egyptians obviously knew something that the Greeks didn't, but the Greeks kind of romanticized it and gave it a Greek flavor, because that's what the Greeks did, was that anytime they told a story, it had a Greek-centric flow to it. Even when, like, Perseus would, went to Ethiopia to fight the sea monster and save Cassiopeia, it was still Greece. You know what I mean? And I get it because, you're in Greece and you're telling the story. So, you can't be telling the story about, like, the Horn of Africa and stuff like that. It's like, listen, dude, just give me the bare bones. What happened here? Okay, a sea monster guy came, boom, went to Libya, killed some Gorgons, then came this way. That's how it works.
Right.
So with Atlantis, the mandate was to brown it up and to bring everything that just kind of gets a paragraph or two, and a lot of like role-playing books is to basically make that the book, as opposed to going, okay, well, and sometimes like either people don't think about it or they're not aware of it. Like I've got a book, I did a trade at a convention once and got a book. And every time I get a fantasy book, I'm always curious, where are the people who look like me from?
Right.
So I'll go and I'll look for it. And in this book, it was a skin tag on the end of a continent. And, oh, dang it, I should have prepared more for this so I could actually read you the passage. But it was basically like, there's some brown people who live here, and slave traders come down there to capture people and take it. I was like, are you for real? This is it? This is all I get?
And still centering the slave narrative as being a central story for us.
When they added that, I was like, wow, not only is it a little, like, on this huge, because it's always, when you look in like any fantasy book, they got a cool picture of the continent. And, it's all like, incredibly well done. And then you're looking for where Black folks are from. And it was like this little hooked skin tag on the end of like a continent and a little thing of islands. And that was it. And I was just like, wow, the orcs have this huge piece of the continent. The elves got this. The dwarves are all over the place. And Black folks have this little hooked piece of land. and pretty much they're just worried about being captured as slaves. And I was just like, damn it, really? It's like I came to a fantasy game and I'm still running into it. And it was kind of disappointing, but it is what it is.
And is this part of what made you start your own publishing house?
No, this happened actually a few years ago. This happened in our enlightened age. No, what made me decide, because I've been doing like my own little thing just because I've always had this need to kind of create and to do stuff. So originally it was comic books. So back in like the early 90s, a friend and I, we published a few comics called Necromancer, not to be confused with Necroscope or anything like that, but it was this comic. And if you actually have a copy, I applaud you, because I think I'm the only one in the universe who actually has copies of this thing. Me and probably like some family members. But yeah, don't rack your brain, because I can guarantee you don't have it.
Probably anyway, don't, but I know I've got at least several thousand comic books at home.
Yeah, so. But we did that, and that was based on a role-playing game. That was based on our D&D campaign at the time. And then, fast forward to the end of the 90s, and I was doing the Godsend Agenda comic book. I was illustrating it, writing it, stuff like that. I actually had a friend who was writing it, who actually works at Wizards of the Coast now, funny enough. But I had got a hold of like some entrepreneurs who were doing the whole, they were doing the whole .com thing. So these folks had money, ton of money, and they were going to do this media thing. And so they had put the call out on the interwebs about like, hey, creators, if you guys got stuff, we're ready to listen to you, throw us your pitch. When the pitch for Godsend Agenda, they were like, oh man, that sounds great. We'd love to publish it. Do you have anything else that can go with it? Because, we want to do multimedia type things. So they wanted to do like comic books and games and, eventually movies. It was really ambitious.
They were doing the transmedia stuff.
Right, exactly. So I was like, yeah, I got a role-playing game for it. And they were like, we'll take that too. So then once I got off the phone with them, I was like, ooh, I got to write a role-playing game now. So, almost a year later, I had the role-playing game done. And by that time, your .com bubbles had blown up. There was no money to be had. Company didn't exist, blah, blah, blah. So I'm stuck here with like all of this content that, I had created. And I mean, I had gone hard on it. At the time I was working at Sherwin-Williams, and I was doing a lot of delivery driving. So I had a clipboard with, one of those, yellow notepad in it. And I literally wrote that game in a truck. Like, so I would do a delivery, get in the truck, write some more of it, go back to the warehouse, use their computer to basically type it all up, put it on like a floppy disk, remember those, and then take it home and then, reformat it and stuff like that. Give it to my roommate, have her edit it and stuff like that. And, but yeah, once they didn't exist, it was like, well, I guess I got to publish this myself. And so I published it myself, and, it was fun. It was gratifying, and it was right around the time when the D20 boom had happened. So no matter what kind of role-playing game you had at the time, you were guaranteed to be able to sell at least like 3,000 copies of that thing. So you would just present something. Now, if it was a D20 game, it would probably sell exponentially more. But, it wasn't. But I enjoyed it. So, there was that verve and enthusiasm that ran through it, or at least for me. There was something in there that fed the fire inside my belly for it. And so we moved forward with it. And then, that's how I kind of got into the so-called gaming industry, the hobby industry, was, basically just going, well, I guess I'll just do it myself. And, just put my own things in it as opposed to catering or trying to pander, which I did a few times, but each time I did that, it was kind of sad. It was like, and it's funny because sometimes those things would actually sell better than the stuff that I was doing, but I did not feel that same sense of accomplishment. And there was one thing that sold so well, I had to go back and do a second printing of it. And then after I did the second printing, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I just let it die.
Right.
Even though it was successful, it didn't feed me emotionally. Like it was like, basically, it wasn't me. So it was almost like I was like, someone said, hey, draw me a picture. And I was drawing a picture as if Jim Lee was drawing the picture, as opposed to how Jerry would draw the picture. And it didn't feel good. And so I didn't do it. And that was okay. It was like, once you start accepting who you are and what you're doing in like whatever space you're in, then all those tethers and stuff, all those things that are hooking on to you, they don't mean anything anymore. It's almost like all of those like hooks sloughed off.
Well, you didn't get lost in the idea of the prestige, the money, the idea of the accolades. You were there to create something that is true, that is feeds yourself.
That is authentically me. And and the thing is in this industry, especially when you're an indie publisher, what you're really selling is yourself. And you're selling the ideas that you yourself have come up with. Now, let's say, for instance, we're a huge company where you have like, 3 or 4 editors on a book and a line developer and 5 to 10 different writers on a book. What you get is what is it? Like a camel is a horse built by committee. You get something that is, it could be really, really cool sometimes, but a lot of times you can see, if you look closely enough, you see the seams. You can you can see how a lot of things are compromised to get you to a point. Whereas when you see some like indie stuff, and it will be crazy. I mean, it'll be all over the place. To the same with like hip hop or punk rock or any type of music. When you have like a corporate built sound, it sounds a certain way. But then you'll get like those outliers who will just do it their way, and it is insane, and you will love it. And you might not like love it in the sense that I got to go out and buy it all, but you will love it because it's different. You might not even like it, but you will respect it and kind of appreciate it for being what it is, because it is like nothing else. And so once that occurred to me, then I was just like, I'm okay with it. I will do me, and the people who enjoy my stuff, they will find that alleyway where my stuff is scrawled on a wall, and they will go there to read it, as opposed to some people who were always chasing, like they want it to be the biggest thing. And it's like, you can be the biggest thing for a moment. And I've seen people do it where like, and I'm sure you've seen it where like someone's done like a Kickstarter been incredibly successful did one thing and disappeared because their heart wasn't in it. They were chasing something, and once they got it, they realized that that wasn't really their bag, because you got to be able to, like, as you're peeling these potatoes, like, be willing to nick your finger a couple times, and be okay with it. Where some people, they're just not built that way. Once they nick their finger once, they're like, I'm out. Where, me, I'm like, you know what? I like potatoes. So I'm going to keep peeling these things. And, I might make me a baked potato. I might scallop it. I might fry it. Who knows? But I like potatoes, so I'm going to continue on. And that's the way I feel about where I'm at in my own little area of role playing. It's like, and it took a long time to get to the acceptance of, like, this is my little spot and I'm happy here. Like, if in 10 years I'm a footnote someplace, that's okay, because I've done my thing and I've gratified myself, and I could, like, people are saying, like, people that I collaborate with, they'll be like, if we did this, we could do this. And it's like, nah, because everyone else is doing that. I'd rather do this and feed the few people who are looking for it, as opposed to trying to feed the masses who really won't care, because really all they want to do is play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or, what have you, but there is a smaller, hungrier community for, the other stuff.
And as you saw when I walked into your game and asked you to sign my manuals, I got a bunch of that.
Right. Yeah.
Of your stuff when I handed you, what was it? I think 4 books. And I realized there was one more I had forgotten to bring with me that day.
Well, next time we'll see what another had. But no, that stuff like that is gratifying. Like, there was one time at a convention, we're sitting in our booth at Gen Con. We were back in the corner someplace, and this, like, couple walked by. It was an older couple, like Nana and Grandpa style couple, black folks. And it was weird. One thing, it was just weird that they were there because they looked so out of place. But I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay. And they walked by, and the lady, she looked at, our booth, and, I greeted her and stuff like that, because, you got to greet everyone, give them a little smile. All my books were out there. And if you've seen any of the books, most of them will feature people of color on the cover. So they walked by, and then they did that thing where they both backed up. And then she pointed at the books to, like, her husband, who I'm assuming was her husband. It could have been, like, her young boy toy. I don't know. That's her business. But she pointed at it and talked to him, and then looked up at me and said, "Did you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did all of this." And she looked at it, and then they both kind of nodded in approval and kind of said thank you, and then walked away. And they didn't buy anything, but they did buy something. They gave me something. They gave me their approval, and that was worth way more than someone coming through and just buying a book, because they looked at it. They got to see themselves, and maybe it made them feel some kind of way, but it seemed like they approved of it, and it was gratifying. And that I won. I won the day that day. And anyone who's out there who's like an indie, publisher, Gen Con is a bloodbath, man. That place is where it's a Shark Tank, and you are just chumming there. You are just there to get the cast-offs from, like, some of the bigger booths, because most of the time you don't make money there. You could back in the olden days when I first started, but now I don't even go to Gen Con anymore, just because it's so expensive that, there's no way I can recoup a $5,000 to $6,000, loss like that just on books alone in a few days. It's just crazy.
Not unless you go steal some magic cards.
Yeah, true. And you know what? Damn it. I wish I would have thought of that first. But
yeah, but then we'd just be playing into the stereotype of us all being thieves.
That's right. That's right. Well, except I would have been a smarter thief, because those guys who boosted those things, they completely wrong the way they did. Because I know every gamer was looking, going, what were you guys thinking? There's a million different ways you guys could have got away with this. and you guys chose to, because when you see like the pictures of them, I hear clown music and I hear circus music in the background, as they are doing their thing. Because I'm like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys serious? But
yeah,
it is.
They were being chaos players and opportunistic players.
Yeah,
and definitely rolled some bad numbers.
Obviously, rookies at being boosters. I could have helped them.
But with that story, I think that's a beautiful place for us to take a break here, because again, even the fact that, as you said, they walked by and they had to back up. It's like it took a moment for it to register that they were seeing themselves, and acknowledging your work there. It's great if they'd been able to give you some money too, but the fact they got to acknowledge that.
I'm glad that they got to see it and got to see that somebody was trying. Because honestly, growing up, there's so many things that, oh gosh, like I could just keep going. Did you want to?
Let's pause there. Let's pause there. We'll come back and go further from there. But I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist, here on Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. Here with Jerry. Like I said, it's late this evening. I'm recording this. Jerry Grayson, who is the publisher, and the name of the company again?
Khepera Publishing.
Khepera Publishing, here on Untying Knots. We'll be back shortly, folks.
Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Our lives and the world around us can get messy and frustrating. Untangle and Grow Counseling's focus is to untangle that mess and make sense of it so you have a good foundation to build and grow from. Visit us on the web at untangleandgrowcounseling.com. Perry Clark offers individual psychotherapy, couples and family therapy, and adolescence therapy from a variety of coping materials and resources. Visit untangleandgrowcounseling.com for more information.
Tune in to the Voice America Variety channel on the Voice America Talk Radio Network. Voice America Variety broadcasts a diverse array of topics, reaching a global community. Our experts come from all walks of life, and the topics they discuss are everything from current events, arts and entertainment, leadership, parenting, relationships, self-improvement, career advice, and a variety of other topics. Check us out today. You're sure to find something of interest. Voice America Variety. Talk on today's hot topics.
Find out what makes the most successful people tick. Keep listening to the Voice America Empowerment Channel. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are listening to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. If you have a question or comment about our podcast, send an email to pclark@untyingknotspodcast.com. That's pclark@untyingknotspodcast.com. And now, back to the program.
Welcome back, folks, to Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. I'm Perry Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist, here with Jerry Grayson of Khepera Publishing. And as you heard the lovely story we ended on, and I know we haven't been much talking about, we've talked about the publishing company, but we haven't actually talked about it until now. And I know I came to recognize your work and see your work when I was on Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. And yes, I have multiple of your books at home, which I brought when I found out you were going to be at a Big Bad Con, and like, get signatures.
Right.
And so the first one I happened to I bought from you was Bastion.
Okay. Yep. Bastion was my attempt to do an Afrocentric post-apocalyptic fantasy game. Mm-hmm. I pull from a lot of different sources because I consume a lot of different media. Mm-hmm. So what Bastion is Stephen King's The Mist mixed with Merv Peake's novel Gormenghast. Mixed with just Charles Saunders' like Afrocentric sword and sorcery fantasy. So basically what Bastion is
section.
Moro and gosh, you had a few other characters too. But anyway, so there. So basically, what it is that it's the last city on Earth after this like Great War. And it's not really Earth; it's just basically whatever the fantasy land is.
Yeah.
But the last city is just called Bastion. Huge wall city. The entire world lives in there, and by the entire world, I mean, I think in the book, I think we say there's 5 million people left. Of all the people have basically aggregated to this one place behind this wall, where outside there's this deadly warping mist, and then you get the Fahrankra, who are these warriors who are sworn to protect the city, who have to ride out into the mist, find survivors, and also basically just do heroic things outside the city. And I wanted to do, originally, funny enough, again, this started off as just me wanting to try to do a vanilla fantasy setting for the Mythic D6 system, which is a game I published, which is a heroic action-oriented like game system. And so,
which I also bought that book too.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So there's Terra Oblivion that we did for it. Bastion,
bought that one as well,
and it's another good one. And a few other things that we had planned for it. But Bastion was me wanting to do a fantasy game, and so originally it started out with, you know, your elves and your dwarves. But as I'm writing, I'm like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And then it quickly just basically, you know, I started trying to look into like a lot of different African cultures and find what makes them really, really cool, because there's so much untapped potential in cultures of people of color that you might get a pastiche of, or someone will try to do an analog of. Like there was this one book that came out years ago called Nyambi, which was a D20 supplement set in a fantasy version of Africa. And what really bummed me out, because when I heard about it, I was really excited to see it, because, you know, it's D20, it's going to have really good production values, and it's its own core book. It's like, if we want it, we could just play it. And then when I got it, and then it kind of bummed me out because it still had elves in it, and it still had dwarves in it. And I'm like, there are so many things, so many different myths and legends in Africa, but you guys just, you gave me elves and dwarves, except like now they're black. It's like, come on, man, you could do better than this.
Oh yeah. So yeah, and that was one of the questions that came up during my child games. Like, so where's the black elves? And it's like, okay, you haven't got to the section where I actually put them in there. Right. And I pulled from the Wakanda Chronicles to put elves in there, but I basically made sure these were black elves. I picked the moth people. I really liked them. and created my own Charlton Underground to put them in. But it's just like, yeah, I made sure that there's representation of that here.
Yeah, no, it's like, so I just made stuff that was just not, or at least I attempted to. I shouldn't say that I did, like, oh, you know, I'm so creative. What they did here, I did this. But no, just I tried to do something different so that you could always get elves someplace else. Everyone's got elves, but you know, what I did was I just started pulling from different sources that no one pulls from. Like one of the playable races in there are essentially my crib of the ancient ones from Dark Crystal. Like in Dark Crystal, when the Skeksis and the ancients, they formed together, and you got that luminous beam. I was like, okay, those guys are going in the game. That's a playable race. You know, my dwarves were just, I got rid of the dwarves and replaced those with these kind of stone monolithic creatures with no heads. It's just like, just to make it so not basic D&D stuff or D&D-isms, which are, you know, your tokenisms. You know, JR token, not like token as in, you know, but maybe a little bit. But and tried to do my own thing there with that. And at each turn, I've tried to do something that gives you something different, but also challenges your preconceived notions of where either these things come from or what they actually are. And, you know, just to kind of mix it up a little bit, as opposed to just giving you something easy and comfortable. which is probably, from a business standpoint, is probably the smarter thing to do, is to give you something easy and comfortable. However, again, it does not feed me. And if I'm the one fronting my own money, I want something that at the end of the day, I will appreciate and that I will enjoy. So with Bastion, that's what you got. You got my whole love of the Adinkra symbols, African Adinkra symbols. So in the game, those actually give you, your superhuman abilities. Yeah, like the different symbols. So if you wanted to go further, you could go, okay, I want to look at what actual Adinkra symbols are. And you can go find them. And then you can go find out about Yoruba or Ghanaian culture or Nigerian cultures from West Africa. And, find out, who the actual, the Orisha are, where, and then, once you start diving deep, then you start seeing like the links with the syncretism, like when the Black diaspora to America and stuff, and where they had to like, kind of like, switch things up or change things up so that, when they were enslaved, they could still worship their gods, but, with a little bit of like, a twist to them and stuff like that. And so that's what I did. It was, and it wasn't just, like, okay, let's just throw this in there and we'll just use the names. And it's like, no, we gotta represent, and we have to do our due diligence to make this not just a pastiche of something. And in the cases where like we failed, hopefully we failed in such a way that it wasn't a step back, that we weren't backstepping it, that, it was like, okay, I can see what they were trying to do. It didn't work out, but no harm, no foul, as opposed to some stuff where I see, and it's just, and I'm sure you've seen it, where like you'll look in a book and you'll see something and you're like, ooh, yeah, man, that's a little painful there. That's you can tell like the people, all they did was like do a cursory reading of some kind of, I don't know, found some kind of bullfinch mythology or something, and just like, yeah, we're good enough. And it's like, you guys are the writers. You're supposed to do the research. Read some books, man. I mean, I'm constantly, if I'm failing, you will see all the hard work put into that failure. It's not a failure from laziness. It'll be a failure for me trying too hard and still screwing up.
And that, I think, is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to have someone who does the creative side of this work also on here to talk about what that means for you in your mental health. To compromise those things is to compromise your mental being.
Absolutely.
And that's something I don't think that many think about, especially with creative work.
Creative work, man, what Blade, a wise man, once said that there's always MFers trying to ice skate uphill. And that wise man, he's right. And that's what kind of being a so-called artist is that you have like a crazy fire in your belly. And it's not even like, and here's the thing, everyone can be an artist and everyone can do art. And art is a lot of things. It's a lot of discipline. Like, for instance, if you love to cook, you can be an artist. If you want to do sculpture, you can do sculpture and be an artist. If you write, you can be an artist. If you play music, there's a lot of different art. And everyone who really loves it, they're consumed by it, whatever their particular art is, or burden, if you wanted to put it that way, because in a way it is kind of a burden. It's a fire in your belly that you will never extinguish, no matter how many times you satisfy and gratify yourself. That burning fire in your belly will continue to burn, and it will continue to push you forward. And sometimes it pushes you, I guess, in an unhealthy way, because you become consumed by it. You're not using that fire to create something. It's basically burning you up. And if you're not careful, and that's why, like earlier, I said, like, once I figured it out, I was okay. Or at least with that aspect. And I'm not okay by any means. Like, I've been in like counseling, gone to all sorts of like counselors, marriage counselors for myself. Just because, like I said, like the way I grew up, I had a mother there, And I had a father, but my father was a ne'er-do-well. And my mother was basically the one who, had to shoulder all the entire burden. And so growing up in the environment that I grew up in, there's so many things that if I leaned into them, I would have been a much more horrible person than I turned out to be later on. And, subsequently, just went on, got help, and I'm a big fan of like, cognitive therapy and like, trying to change, my behaviors through, taking a breath and trying to figure out what I'm doing because, the world inside my head is always trying to bust out. Is there somebody in there?
No, I'm hearing what sounds like fireworks off in the distance. And it's I'm near an airport. I would usually do that.
Yeah. No, you know what? I get that all the time here too. Like, and I'm always wondering, like, who is spending this much money on fireworks, man? Because they're never just a firecracker. It's always something that's exploding in the sky. And I'm like, who is spending all this money for a Saturday, or something like that? But it is what it is here around my house. But no, getting back to it, like mentally and trying to be creative, you can try and tame it and focus it, or it will just, it'll ruin you because you'll start peer reviewing yourself and looking at what other people are doing and going, how come I'm not that guy? I'm working twice as hard as this guy, but I'm not getting it. How come I'm not like, and then one day, it occurred to me like, that's not me. That is not my objective. And then I'm okay. And like with my kids, like I tell them like, and some people find it crazy, but I'm always telling them like, I don't care if you're a doctor or a lawyer. It's like, if you came to me and told me, Father, I want to be a ninja, I'd be like, okay, let's figure out how to make you the best ninja ever. Because ultimately what I'm looking for and what I'm striving for is to be a decent human. And not necessarily to be the richest human or the most successful human. I just want to be a decent human. And any burden that I have, it's clean. And what I mean by that is that if I make a mistake now, it's an earnest mistake. It's not a mistake that comes from anywhere that I'm trying to be malicious or I'm trying to do a thing to one up someone. It's a mistake. And I tell my kids that it's like, make as many as you want to, because trust me, you're going to make these mistakes. Don't stress over it, but find that thing that is your muse that brings you joy and be happy. And I'll be happy if you like it, I'll love it, as long as it's not destructive and as long as you can be a good human and do it, then do it, and feed your soul, because you can have as much money as you want, because, they'll be like, well, I need to make, some money. I want to make a lot of money. To which I say, if you really, really, really wanted to make a lot of money really quick, you can just go sell dope. You can become a criminal. However, I know that's not in you, So what do you want to do that will ultimately make you happy? What will feed you inside? Because, the world outside, there's so many, caustic pressures pushing at you from all these different ways that you need to find your solace someplace. You need to find your happy place. And with some people, it's painting. Some people, it's writing. Some people, it's singing. Some people, it's charity work or just, just being decent. And, when I went and got like counseling and stuff, because like I was just a terrible human. I was, terrible to like my wife. I was terrible to like my kids, and then you hit that one point where it's basically everything just comes to a head and you just can't sustain, just being a troll, and you have to figure it out. And, I could go back and just blame it like, oh, this is the way I was raised. And, there was, all sorts of like, domestic abuse and stuff in the house and stuff like that was perpetrated on me, sexual abuse, things like that. But, it's like, okay, these things did happen and they happened to me. And, now I'm just easy to talk about it. Like, because I'm clean, no matter what you say later on, I am clean, and I feel good about it. And I feel good about me most of the time. Sometimes I still stress out. Like there's some days where, when people, they'll say like, yeah, I went and I got help and I'm cured or whatever. It's like, I'm never cured. It's just a constant maintaining of this, I guess, balance, this harmony that, it's me spinning plates, but spinning plates like not in a manic way, but, I'm maintaining, as opposed to where some people, they think, oh, I went and got counseling, I did the counseling, I did as much as my insurance would allow me, and I'm good now. And it's like, well, you're not good, man. You got to stay on top of it. And even if you don't do counseling, you still have to do the counseling. You still have to do the work. You have to, like, some of the stuff that my counselor gave to me, I still use it. As, like if I'm driving down the street and someone cuts me off, I have an immediate response, and then I have Jerry's good response. It's like, will this guy make my parents, my children, my family stop loving me? No. Then he does not matter here on this road. I can keep it pushing, Whereas at one point, I would have put on the gas. I would have caught up to the dude. We'd be doing that brake check thing, going back and forth, trying to cut each other off. And then whatever would happen. Now, just be cool, man. And be a decent human, because I don't know what this dude's going through. This dude might be in his own Terra Dome right now. And all he needs is just, a little bit of kindness to get him to where he needs to be, and maybe I could be that piece of kindness, which leads me into the random act of kindness thing that I always try to do, is that this is our hobby. This is our thing. And it's so easy to just get cliquish in it. But I want everyone here, man. This is a party that I want everyone in, because even if, like, I don't play D&D, and I'm like, oh, that's not my game. I like that you play D&D. You might not like the comics I read, but I like that you enjoy comics, and it's not a zero-sum proposition. It's like, we can have everything. We can enjoy everything. If we choose to. And so, like, I will try to, like, I'll be on an online forum and someone will say, I really like these types of games, blah, blah, blah. And I will, private message them and just say, here's a link to, like, one of my games. It's for free. Take it, enjoy it. Or if it's not your cup of tea, pass it on. There's been a few times with other publishers, and we've all got our own disciplines that we come from. Like, some people are writers who decided to become game designers. Some people are artists. Some people have multiple disciplines. Like, my real world vocations are just marketing and graphic design. So there's sometimes where someone's got a game and this is their game and they're coming out with their game, and they will have the cover done and they'll have their logo and it looks like crap. And I will contact them and like, listen, I can help you do this. I don't want any money for it. I'm not here like, trying to fish for money. I just want to see you succeed. Like, I don't even really know what your game's about, but I can see you're passionate about it and I want to see you succeed. May I help you with your logo design? May I help you with the layout of this book? Because to them, it's going to take them weeks and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get it done. Or it'll take me 20 to 30 minutes.
Right.
And I'll just do it and I'll give it to you. And you know what? All you got to do, just give me a copy of the book once it's done. I don't care if it's a PDF or a physical copy. And, just put my name in the book someplace. Just say, thanks, Jer. And I'm cool with it. Because ultimately, no one here is making millions of dollars. No one here needs to gatekeep, which always blows my mind when I see that. I want us all here. I mean, this pool's big enough for everyone. And, I don't even mind if the water gets a little warmer or salty around somebody because that's what pools are for. But, but I just want us all here.
Beautiful. So before we start wrapping up, let's quickly go through the various books you've got from Khepera Publishing, just so that people have a sense and a taste of where they can come and find more of this.
Okay. I'll give you all the elevator pitches for the games.
Okay.
Which is, so the first one we did back in 2002, Godsend Agenda, which was based on the comic book that I did. Not a very good comic, but, I thought it was great.
It's a place to start.
That's right. And basically, it was if gods walked the earth today. It was basically if you took all the weird Graham Hancock and what's his name, Von Danikerk, or I can't remember his name, but the guy who did Chariots of the Gods. If you took that, matched it up with Jack Kirby's New Gods, Roger Zelazny's Lords of Light, that's what it would be. So basically, if you took superheroes, oh, now I'm starting to lose myself because it's basically if gods walked the earth today, they'd be considered superheroes. And that was the basic conceit, is that you had like these space aliens with these wondrous powers who set themselves up as gods using the Godsend Agenda to basically rule over a people. And it's modern day now. You are someone who could change the world. What do you do to make the world better? And that is what Godsend Agenda is. It's basically, if you had the power of a god, how would you make the world better or worse? Unlike a lot of like superhero games that are basically just status quo games, like where it's like, hey, Superman, can you please stop these corrupt people? It's like, nah, that's not what I do. It's like, but you can. It's like, hey, Batman, there's some cops out there killing black folks. Can you stop them? Listen, I just stop, people with weird faces. It's like, so in Godsend Agenda, you do not fight for the status quo. You fight for your own new status quo. How will you make the world better? So that's Godsend Agenda. The next game that we did, I was playing, what was it? Dynasty Warriors on Xbox one day. Really loved that game. And I was like, I want to do this as a role-playing game. You know, a game where you play like a warrior, and you are a hero, like in the classical sense, where like, not in a D&D sense where it's like, I fought like 3 or 4 orcs and then we moved on. It's like, no, like where you would read these crazy stories and mythology or the Bible or what have you, where it's like, yeah, this guy, he beat up like, 800 people one day. And you're like, how the hell did he do that? So then started reading Romance of the Three Kingdoms and started trying to convert that and translate that into a role-playing game. And then I have this malady called lazy, and that malady kicked in, and I was like, yeah, this is a lot of work. I can't do this. But what I can do is Greek mythology. So Hellas was born. Hellas, Worlds of Sun and Stone, which is a Greek space opera. So if you took classical Greek myth and threw it into outer space, you would have Hellas. So,
or Ulysses 31.
Or Ulysses 31, exactly. So that's some of the inspiration. There's also a few other like French graphic novels that kind of hit the same thing. And just to do something that was not your standard sci-fi game, and that would be Hellas. Later on, I got to know Steve Secchi, who was the founder of Bard Games back in like the 80s. He had done the Arcanum role-playing game, and most famously, he did Talislanta, which is one of my 3 games. The 3 games are Cyberpunk 2020, Talislanta, and DC Heroes are the 3 games that have informed a lot of my role-playing. So got to know him, and another gentleman who owned a game company called Morgan Press, who had the license to do Talislanta, but also had bought the IP for, or not Talislanta. He was licensed to do Talislanta and had the IP for Atlantis. So once that company went under, I bought that IP and redid Atlantis and made it more Afrocentric as opposed to Western European. So we gutted the entire setting, stripped out all the basic D&Dism fantasy stuff, and just plugged in again, everything below the equator. So, you got every flavor of brown you could imagine. We tried to pour into that book so that, it looked a certain way, it played a certain way, and it was a sword and sorcery game and not your standard fantasy game. And that was that. And then later on, we did Mythic D6, which was kind of a standalone action adventure game that you could play action adventure games with. And with that one, we did a few supplements, Terra Oblivion being one of them, which is our kind of eco-punk game where we've already screwed up Earth. Now we've gone to another planet. We're ready to screw that up. But this time we have a chance to do things right. Again, there's a theme going through all my games, trying to make the world better.
Being the better Jerry.
Well, exactly. And that is my mission in life. It's to become a realized, decent human being, and hopefully influence people to be decent human beings along the way. And let's see. So after that, we've done other games too. Like this is the third iteration of Godsend Agenda that we just released. And now I'm working on a science fiction game called Sojourn, which is again, and also did Orun with Eloy Lasanta and Misha Bay Sugar.
Which I have that one too.
Which is basically our Afrocentric space opera game. So I wrote the story Bible for that one and the background for that one. And then we brought in a ton of other people to do it. And that one was fun to do just because we got to let it all hang out and just be unapologetically Afrocentric in that thing. And that thing, that thing is Black History Month every month in that book. That book is, that thing is crazy. But
please at a future Big Back Con, run one of those. Because I really want to play in that.
I know. No, trust me. Like the other day, like I pulled it down and I was thinking, like, because we did that one, gosh, a while ago. I can't even remember. I'd have to look it up when we did it. But I wanted to do, like when you look at stuff that you've done, you're like, I could have done that a little bit better, and you start picking at it and stuff, and then you start doing notes for it, and then you're like, why am I doing notes for this? I'm not going to do anything with it. And then you're like, yeah, but it makes me feel good. But yeah, Orun and Sojourn is different. Going to be a little bit different, but
it's a work in progress.
Yeah, that one's that one we're working on right now. And there's, I've got game ideas from all sorts of just wacky stuff. Like one of the Mythic D6 game worlds that during the Kickstarter, like we didn't hit that level, but if we would have, I would have done Irin, which was my Gnostic Ultraman game, where it's basically, I don't know if you know who Ultraman is.
I know Ultraman.
I love Ultraman, man. It's like I wanted to do.
I grew up on those reruns.
Yeah, I wanted to do if you took Ultraman and mashed it together with Battlestar Galactica, and then an overlay of Manifest Destiny, and then that's what I wanted to do. Was basically aliens come with their God-given right to take over, but the Irin come to help us stave them off. So it would have been the Manifest Destiny of the aliens coming and us defending ourselves against them. Just to throw that back into people's faces.
Well, I think that's a great place. And a number of books that people want to play, even if you just want to read them for these stories, go read them. If you want to play them, which would be even more fun, go play them. So that being said, where can people find more information about Khepera Publishing, contact you, and so on?
Well, you can just go to the website. That's KheperaPublishing.com. Khepera, Khepera, Publishing. I think that's how you spell it. At least that's how I'm spelling it today. But you can find it online. Just look up my name, Jerry D. Grayson, and you will probably see a picture of a little pudgy black guy, balding, with a goofy wig on. Or just look up some of the games and you'll find me. And if you do find me online, wave at me. If you see me at a convention, come up and, ask for a hug, and we could get into each other's personal space and be humans and talk and just be beautiful to each other. Because that's really what it's about, man. I mean, role-playing games, it's the best thing in the world because you get to sit with people you love and make really awesome stories together. And stories that you will talk about for years. No one's ever played a softball game and said, do you guys remember that softball game 3 years ago where such and such did this? No. But a role-playing game, you will always remember when your character got eaten by a veggie beast. And it will be the best thing in the world, man. So
perfect. Well, I want to thank you for coming on and talking about this and talking about the mental health as well. Again,
no, I appreciate it, man. It's this is good work. Everyone on planet Earth is entitled to do a good work, and that work is something that is personal to each person. That is for the betterment of everyone, and I kind of consider this one of those good works. It's something that it's not going to be for everyone, and people will be like, I don't need that. But the people who do, the people who are hungry for it, they will totally appreciate this, man. And I approve of it, man. And I applaud you for it. And I thank you for it, man. Because this is good work. So.
And we all keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if we're not trying, then we're not doing.
That's right. That's right. So.
All righty. So, yeah, as we've said, it's a late night for us. So we're going to grab it here. Tune in for more episodes here on Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. And I know that we talk about so many different things here, so many different intersections. I want to thank Jerry as well for being here, and stay tuned, folks. We'll be back for more. Oh, wait a minute. Is there something else you want to add in that about drive-through?
Oh, yeah. No, I just I'll give you like a whole bunch of coupons, so whoever's interested can download one of the core books and just have a look at like some of the crap I do. So if you are a gamer and love to have lots of garbage in your folders on your computer, I will provide some for you.
So remember, the first 100, once that's gone,
that's right.
You have to get it for yourself. But again, stay tuned for more, folks.
Thank you for tuning in for Untying Knots, Minds and Souls Untethered. Be sure to join your host, Perry Clark, for another episode on the podcast coming soon on the Voice America Empowerment Channel.